Today, I'm going to be remaking 3 MVP screens from Marvel Rivals with action figures. I'm going to use each image only as a reference and not a guide, so I can't essentially just trace over them. So these won't look perfect, but I'll definitely try my best. So for Iron Man here, I'm using the Invincible Iron Man figure, just with some simple posing, with the ab crunch a little bit back and the arms up. I then use the Infinity War Iron Man's floating accessories, since they look very similar to the one in the poster. Importing everything I took a picture of, I'm already noticing that all 3 of these posters will require some type of drawing. So for here, I started with the glowing blue circle in front of his arc reactor. I then used the same blue color as a base for all of the repulsor effects, and then started to layer on whites and darker blues little by little just to give the beams more depth. Doing the same with the orb where they all meet in the middle to kind of give it more of a glow. I created a rectangle shape that I warped the end of it to better match the main beam's shape, and began the detailing process there. Once again, I'm using a mix of blues and rough brushes just to help with the overall look and blending the 2 elements together. There's these little staggering lines along the beam, so I made their basic shape with a brush and refined them with a thicker one just to clean them up. We're not done with the figure yet, but moving to the background really quick, I added the dark colors to the main shape, and I did my best to mimic the game's background with the gradients they use. And then back to the figure, I nearly forgot to add his highlights and shadows, so that's just what I'll do. This game seems to have a lot of rim lighting when it comes to their graphics, so I'll try giving that effect with a white airbrush, and then obviously a black airbrush for the deep shadows seen around. I did a few color touch-ups just to better match the cooler tone. And that is Iron Man's MVP screen done with an action figure. I also added a solid white and yellow rim light after recording because I found a new technique, which you'll see in the next one. Moving on to the Venom poster. I'm using the Monster Venom here, which I think the proportions are perfect for the Rivals look, and the ab crunch on this figure will help me get him into the leaning pose that he's in. What's not perfect on this figure though is the head movement, so I'm gonna pose this one a bit strategically. I'm gonna remove his head and just pose the body alone. In doing this, I can take a picture of the head separately so I can position it just right in the app, since the real figure can't do that. And here back in the app, we can see this blue shine on the figure, and that's from the blue background I used. What we need is a yellow shine. So what I'm going to do is some hue adjustment just to make it as yellow as I can. I'll then bring in the head, and now the figure's head can look in the direction I need it to. I'll just need to clean up the edges, and the pose overall is okay. The only other thing I couldn't achieve in the picture was making the hand as big as it is. So I'll isolate the hand by selecting it, and I'll resize it to make it bigger. And looking at it while editing, I should have made it way bigger, but it is what it is. Now for the drawing part, I took the base color to start his tendrils, and I made a similar shape on both sides. I then started to play with the opacity and more rough brushes just to make a slimy look. And to further that slimy look, I'll take some lighter shades and paint it on the tendrils. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'll do Venom's shadows to make the blacks darker. And back to the lighter side once again, going in with white and yellow for an effort at the rim lighting once again. I then fixed up the background, adding the blue shades. And this is where I started to realize I could make the yellow rim light a lot more accurate by making another Venom layer and filling it full yellow to shape it around the character. And I think it worked pretty well. So even though the hand should be bigger, here is Venom's MVP screen with an action figure. On to the third and final poster of this video. For Psylocke, we'll go with a green background. And because of the hindered articulation they used to give these female figures arms, I'll do my best to recreate the pose. And since the real image has wind blowing from the right, I'll take these separate pictures of her hair and her belt so I can make them look like they're blowing in the wind. Going back into Procreate, of course, I'm placing everything down that I took a picture of, and the first thing I do is erase this side of her hair since it's all being blown to the left, and I'll place the separate hair image and put it to her left. Then to take as much green as I can out of the image, I'll balance it out with more of a purple hue. Now, I think this one is more of a buyable MVP screen in the game. It's a little bit more special than the regular template background, so I'll have to do a lot more drawing here, and this one has a lot of planet drawing, so just get ready for that. So I'll begin with a black background and draw on a purple circle with the shape tool. Then selecting the circle that I made, I added lighter purples for glow all around, and some darker purples to kind of scratch up the surface and make it more like a planet. There's also some blues seen towards the bottom of the circle. I guess these act as shadows on the planet, so I'll put those. There's also a white glow around the planet once again as rim light. And I tried to make stars out of this brush, but it's not the best, but it kind of works. Then back to the figure, I gave the rim light method I used earlier, only this time being purple to match. I then took some whites and purples and airbrushed inside her hand effect along with the sword to give more of a glow to each item. I put the highlights on her, and not many shadows here that I had to manually do since the in-camera lighting did the job, I think. All there's left to do is draw on these petal-like things scattered around her, and I went with more of a pink rather than purple just because that's what the figure's accessory is more of. I then gave a subtle glow to each one and adding the missing texture to the planet, and after my recording I added some details that I missed, and that is Psylock's MVP pose. Here's all three finished products together. None of them are truly perfect, but I did do this for fun and I'll continue to explore better methods for better outcomes in the future. I feel like I should definitely have a better way to see the reference image next time, but I'll worry about that when I get to it. If you want me to make more and see if I improve, let me know in the comments which Marvel rival poses and screens I should make for next time. Like, comment, and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you guys in the next video.